We back, baby.
Offense, you know what to do.
It's football time in Tennessee.
Yes, you know.
All right, everybody, welcome in. This is the latest episode of the 1796 Sports Podcast. This will be our preview episode for the Kentucky game coming up. We got the Battle of the Beer Barrel. This is always a intense matchup. We always dominate, of course. So we'll jump right into it. This is Kentucky Hate Week. What do you guys have to say?
Go ahead, NBF.
There's not really much to say, to be honest. I'm actually ready to get into all these. Actually, no. You know what? I did see a post on Twitter talking about how there is a specific Kentucky fan. I'm not going to acknowledge who he is, but not going to acknowledge who he is. But I mean, 35 points predicted against the Tennessee defense, even though Alabama is the one team that scored the most against us, which was 34, and then Florida was the closest second at 29. So it's kind of mind-boggling that they think that way.
Well, you gotta give a little grace there because there's not the oxygen supply isn't always very good in the coal mines. They're not thinking clearly sometimes. They can't gather their thoughts. So we'll cut them some grace there. Ryan, did you want to say anything before we dig right into the stats and get to it?
Yeah. Speaking of the coal mines, my mom's side of the family is from Kentucky. I had a great grandfather die of black lung. I think it's disgusting what they did last year at that basketball game with that dude who looked like he just smeared coal over his face. Like, if that dude sat next to me at a game, like, if he looks like that, imagine how he smells. Like, get away from me. Go take 5 minutes to wash your face. That wasn't a good story. It was an obvious plant, and that makes a mockery of the coal industry that we all need to even be powering our laptops and phones to record this thing right now. So I, for one, appreciate the coal mine industry. Thank y'all.
All right. And if you don't know what Ryan's talking about, something went viral last year where John Calipari, that got courtside tickets for a coal miner and his family, which if he had to do that for every Kentucky fan that's a coal miner, he'd be broke pretty quickly. But yeah, it was a cute little story. So anyway, we'll get right on into this game then. It's obviously at Kroger Field, the intimidating atmosphere that is Kroger Field. Surprisingly, and I don't know, I'll let you guys go from this, but I'm surprised that Tennessee's only 3.5-point favorites, which implies that we're probably in a neutral field. We're probably like 6-point favorites. I thought it'd be a little bit bigger than that. For reasons we'll get into later, I feel like the Vols match up very well against Kentucky, but I'll let y'all go from there.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at Kentucky on some of the big statistics, they're middle of the pack in a lot of them. The thing that they're probably the best at is run defense. And, they've played a schedule that is nowhere like I would hope they have a good run defense because the schedule that they've played. So I definitely agree that the line is kind of weird. I think they're looking at how Tennessee collapsed in the second half and it just being on the road. That's probably the main reason. But NVF, what are your thoughts on that rat line?
Honestly, I don't get it either because I get Tennessee's offense has struggled, but I mean, you're talking about Alabama we played last week, and a lot of people will tell you that Alabama is not the same Alabama, but I mean, Nick Saban is Nick Saban, and I just don't understand the 3-point favorite just because, honestly, I would have understood like maybe a 9.5-point type deal because I don't get the comparison people are doing with Joe Milton and Devin Leary, but Devin Leary has looked absolutely terrible this year. In my opinion, you stop Ray Davis, you win this game. I don't think they have enough to stop.
That's it.
They have to stop a three-headed monster in Tennessee's run game. The way Joe Milton played, if we get just even that Joe Milton, I mean, I think he would torch the Kentucky defense if he played at all, even close to what he did, this last week.
Yeah, I think going back to Ryan's point, Kentucky, yes, they do technically have the number 13 ranked run defense in the league right now. But when you play against Eastern Kentucky and the West Virginia School of Mines, I mean, what do you expect? I'd like to see what that looks like, more towards the end of the season once we get deeper into conference play. So I do think that our run game will be efficient. I don't foresee, I know you guys don't either, I don't foresee Tennessee's three-headed monster suffering, 2 weeks in a row. I don't see that happening. I think we're going to be able to bully Kentucky at the line of scrimmage. They give up a decent amount of sacks. They're no South Carolina or anything, but you can get sacks on them. And another thing I want to say is Joe Milton has received a ton of criticism this season, and rightfully so for most of it. But if you want to do a little experiment, look up Devin Leary's stats, and it makes Joe Milton look not that bad. So, for example, Devin Leary has 200 less passing yards than Joe Milton does. And, I mean, I don't think anybody would classify themselves as satisfied with Milton's performance thus far. And Devin Leary's been even worse. I mean, like, if Ray Davis doesn't run the ball, they have no offense.
Well, yeah, I mean, it really is just Ray Davis, too. I mean, normally Kentucky has, at least one other, maybe one and a half more running backs behind their main starter. But this blew my mind when I was just going over things to talk about. Like, they don't have a running back besides Ray Davis is second in the SEC in rushing. Okay, fine. He's great. Sure. Joe Milton has more rushing yards than any other running backs.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane, considering how normally Kentucky has, like I said, I mean, at least two good running backs. I mean, it's literally Ray Davis, and that's it as far as their running game.
Well, and I mean, I'm looking at his home stats this year. It's his 57. I'll round up 50 or 58% completion rate, rating. With 1,045 yards. I mean, at home you should be, even in this like 65 to 70 range with completion rating, being like you get a quiet environment, you get all that. But I'm just shocked on what they got for a quarterback. I expected more out of Devin Leary this year. I'm sure everyone did, but I mean, and I don't discredit their wide receivers. They have been hurt a little bit, but even if they weren't, I mean, Kamal Haddon has been spectacular, so I don't expect him to slow down this year.
I mean, Yeah, I mean, Barry and Brown got so much talk before the season, and I know, like you said, it's not 100% on him, but I mean, he hasn't performed like a first-round pick or anything. I mean, there's nobody that I think South Carolina has a better receiver than anybody on Kentucky. Texas A&M probably has three better than anybody on Kentucky. Jermaine Burton is better than anybody on Kentucky. So I'm not really too worried about that. And then, like you said, NVF, like Devin Leary can barely complete a pass sometimes. Like he's had a couple games where he's hovering around 50% completion percentage.
Yeah. I mean, talking about Kentucky's receivers, for as much hell as all three of us have given Ramel Keaton, there's only one Kentucky receiver with more receiving yards than Ramel Keaton, and it's Tavion Robinson. And he beats him by 37 yards. So certainly nothing to really write home about on the receiving in their receiving room. So I totally agree with all those points from both of y'all.
Yeah, I am not worried about this game at all. the only thing, and you talked about the raucous crowd that's going to be there. There's going to be a lot of Tennessee fans there, especially, we're right on the border. So it's not, people are going to go to this game. Yes, it's probably going to be cold. It's a night game, but I don't expect it to be, it's definitely not going to be, as bad as Alabama. And I heard that wasn't even that bad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a nice little drive up to Lexington. I've been up there before.
It is not a nice drive up to Lexington. The driving through Kentucky sucks. It's like, I guess Ryan thinks it would be nice driving through Baghdad too, because Kentucky is a terrible state to drive through. So I don't know what that's about.
I think it was more closer to Tennessee. The drive was good. Everywhere else looked like, a desert. And then you enter into Lexington and the stadium emerges out of concrete, surrounded by concrete. There's no character to anything going on up there unless it has to do with a horse or bourbon. So,
well, and another thing to note about the stadium is, if I think, this is one of my maxims for this game, is we have to get out to an early lead, because that crowd is not going to stick around if they're down by 2 or 3 touchdowns in the second half.
And why would they, whenever Devin Leary has showed no ability to even sniff coming back on anybody that they've been down to? Like 2/3 of the stadium was gone after they were down by 17 points in the third quarter to Missouri.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to what you were kind of implying there, is it's hard for them to come back. Like, any deficit is a big deficit for them because they rely so heavily on the run game.
Yeah, and Tennessee has gotten off to good starts, even as much as we've struggled on the road at times this year. Titanic struggles. The starts have been fine. We've scored opening drive touchdowns in both of the road games. So I see no reason why we can't do that again come Saturday night.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how our team bounces back this week. After that blunder of the second half, I just don't see them coming into this game not wanting to rip someone's head off. And, it should be like that. If I'm on that team, I'm pissed. And they need to come into this game, especially going into this is a rivalry. And you want to go in and you want to rip someone's head off every time. But after a game like that, it should be 10 times worse.
Yeah, I saw somebody say, imply that perhaps Tennessee won't be in this game, mentally. Are you guys worried about that at all? I'm not, but
no,
are you guys
absolutely
worried
not
about maybe the players are checked out? You have 2 losses. I don't know why you would be checked out. Hypothetically, the SEC East is still in play. If you do your job and have a little bit of luck, I don't understand that logic at all.
It's really not that much luck. All you got to do is win your 5 games. That's all you got to do. You beat Kentucky.
Well, Georgia would have to lose at some point.
Well, no, if we beat Georgia, that's that. They're, I just don't see us winning all 5 of these games, to be honest. I am confident we could win 4, but to me, we'll see. You're right, though. It's going to be a crazy last 5 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I see no world where the team doesn't want to bounce back. The seniors on this team won 3 games in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So there's certainly a lot to play for. They also won 7 games 2 years ago. They yearn for more to be remembered for than just one season. So surely they will come out with a great effort.
Well, and if they don't, I think we have bigger problems. Because that's obviously going to reflect on Heupel if he can't get his team ready, which I'm not implying he won't. I think he will. I think our boys will be ready to play. I think they're going to – it's Kentucky. We always get up for Kentucky, it feels like, so I'm not really too worried about it. I just thought that was an interesting point.
Yeah.
Plus they have that, mental hurdle of it being Tennessee. And like I said before, there's going to be plenty of Tennessee fans at this game. And I just, we talk about their mental being there. I mean, we have a bunch of seniors on this team. You have to show out. I mean, if you want to play at the next level, you can't just check out and be done. I mean, you still have to play good to, strive to get to that next level. So, I mean, I don't expect anything less than a beating coming for Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point about the mental hurdle. I mean, it's the exact same thing that we seem to have with Florida. I mean, I guarantee you that we will be wearing orange pants come Saturday because the color orange psychs them out. We are going to be wearing orange pants. Bucket.
Yeah, I'm looking at Devin Leary's stats again, and it's like mind-boggling to me. He's actually at 54% on the year. That's pretty terrible. And I'm trying to find this, like, how many sacks this offensive line has let up. I don't know if you guys have it. Oh, yeah. It's 11.
Yep.
And
it's actually not that bad, relatively speaking,
But I mean, how good is Missouri's defensive line?
It's been better recently. They're not,
but it's not better than ours though.
Oh no, absolutely not. It's no.
Yeah. Well, they got 4 sacks on Kentucky at Kentucky, so I'm assuming James Pierce is just going to eat this offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee still ranks in the top 10 in the country in tackles for loss and sacks. We get more tackles for loss than Georgia, who skull drug them, and we get more sacks than Georgia, who skull drug them. So I certainly see the defensive line pumping up those sack numbers for Kentucky's offensive line. I don't think – I mean, Georgia's great. They were playing at home. They got after Leary. Leary was in hell the entire night. But we could see something similar to that if Tennessee comes out ready to roll.
Well, yeah, I think you saw my tweet with Tyler Barron's head down and West picking his head up. Tyler Barron's coming to play. He is going to destroy Devin Leary if he can. Yeah. And not in an injury way either, just so no one takes us out of context. But he is going to get to the quarterback as many times as he can. I mean, he's one of those guys that the mental is not going to be off. He's going to be locked in. James Pierce going to be locked in. The whole defensive front going to be locked in. So, like I said before, I'm not really worried about this game. Now, it's just, college football, anything could happen. But I just don't see, especially the way Devin Leary's been playing. You stop Ray Davis, like I said earlier. They have nothing.
Yeah, I think this is a terrific matchup for Tennessee. We have a great run defense. We can run the ball. And the mental factor that we've already talked about. So if it doesn't go Tennessee's way, we're going to have a hell of a time on the recap podcast because everything is pointing to the Vols winning by a substantial margin.
Yeah, that regardless, the recap episode is going to be pretty tight because we've got Astro Smokey coming on. Shout out Astro.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be fun. I just wanted to – we always have to point this out every time we play Kentucky. So does anybody know, without looking it up, does anybody know what the all-time record is with Tennessee versus Kentucky?
I'll let Ryan answer this because I literally was just looking at it.
I think 80-29 and something.
Tennessee has 83 wins. Kentucky has 26.
Yeah,
and a lot of those are from like back in like the 20s.
Yeah, so since even in Tennessee's horrible like Butch Jones and Pruitt era, Kentucky won in 2020 and they won in 2017. Like even in that shitty era of Tennessee football, they won in 2020 and 2017. Other than that, the past decade and a half has been very one-sided.
Yeah, in my lifetime, the 3 times that I've seen Tennessee lose to Kentucky, the coach got fired the same year. So, I don't see us firing Heupel if we lose Saturday night, but it certainly would not bode well for his everybody feels about him. But I mean, it just goes to show that only the worst Tennessee teams lose to Kentucky.
Yeah, and this is not. This is
This is not
definitely.
it.
Yeah, it's not the best Tennessee team, but it's far from the worst. It's much closer to being the best we've seen than the worst.
Yes, absolutely.
So
I mean,
what
these
do
are
you,
just go for it.
I was just, finish your thought because I'm about to change the subject.
No, I was just going to say, I mein, when you're a head coach at Tennessee, you're expected to beat Kentucky and Vanderbilt at the very least. So
You better. I mean,
Heupel's a great coach. I mean, I know we were all a little frustrated with him after the Bama game, but I think we think highly enough of him that he'll win the games he's supposed to.
Yes.
so I did want to ask. I mean, I've seen all these I'm on Twitter all the time, but have you seen all these? You get these mixed feelings from these Tennessee fans on here, talking about how the season's over, it's a failure. I don't see this season. I mean, we have 5 games left, but like if we finish how we should, and we'll just say 9-3, because we'll just say Georgia could be a loss. I expect to win the other games. We should win the other games. I mean, credit to Missouri. They're playing great, but we should win that game. Okay. But let's say that happens. What are your guys' thoughts? Are you feeling as a failure here if we go 9-3?
No, I mean, I would love to. Maybe we can get somebody on that would disagree, but I would love to understand the rationale for a Vols fan that would be disappointed with 9-3. I mean, there's tons of programs that would love to sniff 9 wins, and we're not that far removed from, getting beat by everybody we play. So I really don't. I mean, I know it in the technical term, it's a little disappointing because of how great last season was, but think about it, guys. I mean, Hyatt's not on the team. Tillman's not on the team. Darnell Wright's not on the team. Hooker's not on the team. Like, we took a step back from a talent perspective on a lot of key positions, and we're still in a position at least to compete for the SEC East and get 9 wins. I don't know how you can be mad at that. I mean, what were people expect? Were people really thinking we were national championship contenders? I mean, I wasn't. I was under no illusions that we were going to compete for the national championship.
I'm not going to lie to you. I thought we could.
Yeah, I think I wrote about it before the year in my Ceiling and Floor blog that I wrote in August. I wrote how if Tennessee was to win a national championship, it would be because Joe Milton matched what Hendon Hooker did last year. And he clearly has not done that. But the floor, I said, was 9-4 with the bowl win, 10-3 with the bowl win. So I certainly understand people being disappointed because Heupel showed last year that, for the first time in a long time, that winning double-digit games at Tennessee is still possible. But it's like Bryce just said. I mean, this is kind of a bridge year if Milton did not live up to Hooker, and he hasn't. So I think it would be incredible for Tennessee to finish 9-3, 10-2. And considering what we've seen from this team, if they do that, I don't see how you could say it's a failure considering how much we've fallen off on offense.
Yeah, I guess real quick, NBF. I guess my point is I could maybe understand if you at the beginning of the season said 9-3 would be a disappointment. I could understand that. My thinking though is once the season started and you saw all the things that we've been through this season, and you see like how big of a downgrade Milton is from Hooker, like now with hindsight, I don't think you can be disappointed.
No, yeah, I wouldn't be disappointed, and I'm saying 9-3 in the regular season with a bowl win. So, or no, is that with a bowl win? No, I don't know. It's too late. I worked all day. Am I right?
9-3, I guess. Not 9-3 with the bowl win would be 10-3.
Yeah, so if we finish with the bowl win 10-3, I mean, I don't see how you could complain as a Vol fan. And that's just saying, because look at all the years we just came from, like you said. I don't know how you could expect that, especially with the recruiting classes we're bringing in now. I mean, you got Mike Matthews, Boo Carter. I mean, the offensive line of Bennett Warren, Max Anderson, Gage Ginther. I mean, we got a bunch of guys coming in that are going to take years to develop. So, I mean, especially with Nico, you got, Nico next year, which we're not saying he's going to do good next year, but, he could. And the next year after that, he's probably going to be a stud, if not next year. So, I mean, you got to look at it that way. I think a 10-3 with the bowl win is really good. But, I mean, we got a long way to go. 5 games. Like I said, Missouri's been playing really well. We'll see. I mean, Georgia plays Florida this week without Brock Bowers. We'll see how that goes. Lucky them, they play on a neutral field, so
That's a
we'll
joke.
see.
That's such a joke.
It is. I agree. I think it's if you're going to be doing that for like games like that, you might as well let us play Alabama on a neutral field.
Yeah, we should get to play Alabama and Nashville every year.
Yeah.
Oh my God! That'd be. I don't even know. I don't have words to describe that.
Yeah.
I will say this though. I think if we lose again, that's not Georgia, then I will understand people being upset. If you go 8-4 in the regular season, and your losses are Florida, Alabama, Georgia, and one of Vandy, Missouri.
Oh God, no, hell no.
If it's Vandy,
you shouldn't say that.
I know it's horrible to even think about, but God forbid we lose to Vandy or Kentucky, then I definitely think you can classify it as a disappointment then, because that should just never. If you go 11-1 and your one loss is to Vandy, that season's a disappointment.
See, I'm thinking I'm not worried about this Kentucky game, and I'm not worried about Vandy, especially because it's home. I mean, both games, even if it was in Nashville, it's a home game anyway. But I'm not worried about those 2 games. I think if Tennessee goes and beats, let's say Tennessee wins these next 3 games, which is extremely possible, especially after that little stretch we had with, South Carolina A&M and UTSA. I think this is an easier stretch because Kentucky's worse than South Carolina, in my opinion. You got UConn, which is worse than UTSA. And then you got Missouri, which is better than A&M, in my opinion. So, I mean, you get to that Missouri game and you win that game, all eyes are on that Georgia game, and this season is not over. So the boys have to have their mental right because the season is fully intact. It's just you cannot lose a game these next 3 games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is like my inner BVS, but like it would just be the perfect shitstorm if Tennessee beats Georgia and then loses to Vandy to end the season. Like that would just that makes me want to puke.
Well, that's kind of like last year. I mean, we lost to Georgia, but we beat Alabama, and you go to South Carolina and get absolutely pummeled. So it's kind of like that, where it's like you had the playoffs in your hand and you just blew it.
That would be a disaster. And then
We're not losing. I'm saying this for I think all 3 of us here. We are not losing to Vandy, okay? But I'm just saying that if it were to happen, it's not. But if it were to happen, that would be worse than last year.
Oh,
yeah. But I mean, okay, so all of us so far seem pretty positive that we're not going to lose to Kentucky. So let's dive into that a little bit. Let's get some predictions in here. I don't know, NVF, what you got for me?
Well, everything relies on the team playing a whole game. If the team plays a whole game and doesn't just decide to take a quarter off or a half off, I could see this game. I could see Tennessee scoring 40 points. I mean, with the offense that showed up that first half at Alabama, I could see them scoring 40 points this game, and I could see us holding them to under 24 easily. I'm giving them 24 just because, Ray Davis is a great running back. So, but I'll give him 24. So I'll say 42-24 Tennessee wins this game.
Yeah. For how positive we've been, I had just two things that kind of concerned me. Tennessee's coming off two games that were absolute slugfest, battle in the trenches, all those cliches. And Kentucky's coming off a bye week, and they're going to be at home. So that might factor in somewhere during the game. If I had to guess, it would be maybe in the third quarter. But I would expect us to be up by enough to where a few lapses don't hurt us all that much. And the one other thing that concerns me is Joe Milton, he hasn't taken a good performance and stacked it on top of one another yet at Tennessee. So I said on Sunday, that Joe Milton had his best performance of the year. No doubt. Mm-hmm. I'm just wondering if he can stack two good performances back to back. And, saying that, even if he doesn't, I think our running game will do enough to win by a substantial margin. So even with those two concerns, I'll probably go with the Vols 41, Kentucky 17.
Yeah, I'm going to be pretty close to both of you. I think an overlooked aspect of this game is the Vols have not won a road game this year. Obviously they lost to Alabama, lost to Florida. Technically, Virginia is a road game, I guess, but it's not. It was probably 95% Vols fans there.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a big hurdle, and it's something I wanted to talk to you guys about because I think if they go up to Kentucky and prove they can dominate on the road, that'll do a lot for the team's psyche the rest of the way. I think that the team, once they win a game on the road, they could hopefully snowball that. So overall, I think we're going to be able to run the ball. I think we're going to make Devin Leary's life pretty difficult. And I think as long as you contain Ray Davis, as good as you can, he's a good player. He's going to get his. I think at the end of the day, I think it's a pretty comfortable Vols win. I'm going around somewhere. You guys like a high scoring. You like a good offensive output from us, huh? So I'm going to go Tennessee 35, Kentucky 17.
Well, that's just what Ryan was saying. It all depends on Joe Milton. I think him using his legs helped him out a little bit to get a little bit of confidence because he got out of situations and got a couple first downs in that Alabama game, and it just I feel like boosted his confidence in a way to where he's like, all right, well, if I have to do it myself, I'll do it myself, and I think that really benefits him. So I'm thinking if he does that this game, that Tennessee should have no problem going down the field. I think Jalen Wright bounces back and has a big game. I also don't think Ray Davis is going to have 300 yards against Tennessee, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, I think Tennessee's offense. I think we score 35 at least. But if you score 30, it's going to be really hard to beat Tennessee this year, especially with that defense stepping up.
Yeah, Joe Milton. If you're not running Joe Milton, and he's going to sit back there and be a statue, there's no point in playing him because Nico's more accurate. I haven't even seen Nico, and I can tell you he's more accurate. So if you're not running Joe Milton, that would be a huge mistake. So please do what you did last week against the defense that isn't as good. That it's not going to be as crazy of an environment. Kentucky can't get off the field on third down. They take a shitload of penalties. I do not see our offense coming out and pooping their pants. So I really think that previous 2 years with Heupel where we take control early like we did against Missouri in 2021, South Carolina 2021, we get out early and roll. Like I don't think it'll even be a game at halftime.
It shouldn't. It shouldn't. But we all know what game this is, so we'll see. Like you said, I don't think this is going to be that interesting of a game once it gets to mid third quarter.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does. Rivalry games always have that extra flair to them. Like Ryan said earlier, though, this is in our favor for once. Like everybody knows, we kind of get psyched out when we go to Florida for whatever reason, playing in that swamp. But that's the effect that we have on Kentucky, even in Lexington. So I don't really overall, I think a lot of the trends and a lot of the mental stuff, I just think a lot of it is pointing towards Tennessee's direction. And if anybody thinks that motivation will be a factor, like if Tennessee doesn't have anything to play for, what the hell does Kentucky have to play for?
Right.
Like, do you really think that Kentucky, I mean, other than getting up to beat Tennessee, I mean, Kentucky is on a fast track to the Music City Bowl. So I don't really that won't be a factor in my opinion. Now, however, I'll go ahead and say this. If the Tennessee defense allows Devin Leary to have some insane game where he goes like 350 yards, and if Kentucky scores like 30 points, somebody should be fired.
I agree.
Not Heupel, but
Yeah.
there should be major changes is my point. There's no way Kentucky should score 30 on this defense.
It's crazy that everybody thought Devin Leary was going to be. I mean, even for as bad as Will Levis was last year, they still won a good amount of games. Everybody thought that he was going to come in and do the same stuff, and he hasn't. Like when you complete half your passes in an offense that's centered around running, that's abysmal. So if we allow him to do much of anything, I think it's concerning. So I definitely agree with that.
So we're thinking that this place will be, a ghost town at halftime, or what do we think at third quarter? That's what I think. I think it'll be like the mid third is when people start leaving.
I could see it being halftime. I mean, I really expect Heupel to finally have a game this season where we come out and score back to back to back to back. I think this is the game to do it, especially after not scoring any in the second half last week and your offense sputtering for the past few games. I think he wants it. Everybody on the offense wants it. I think a team that you have a mental edge over is a perfect spot to do it. So I really expect us to be clearing out that stadium as soon as the clock hits 0-0 at the end of the first half.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're all wanting to see. They've got to, those fans can't stay out too late. They got to get back to the moonshine stills. And I think most Kentucky fans have already turned their page to basketball. As soon as their Big Blue Madness thing happens, football season's over. So,
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's gonna be a lot that get up for this game, but I mean, I don't know why they do. I seriously, I have no idea why all these Kentucky fans every year think that the outcome's going to be different. Like last year, that was probably their biggest opportunity to do it because, I mean, Will Levis sucks, but to them, Will Levis was a god, and that was the year. It was like, oh, this is the year. We got Rodriguez, we got Will Levis. We're gonna do it, and of course, it didn't happen. 44-6. Just remember that.
Yeah. And even the year before, the last time we played in Lexington, they played lights out on offense. And we had the ball for 13 minutes and still beat them. Like, please. Like, I really, our defense is 1,000 times better than it was 2 years ago, last time we were up there. So, I mean, I really see no way that Kentucky comes out on top in this one. I mean,
and like you said, Bryce, I mean, if it does happen, or no, I don't know who said it, but someone's got to like pay for that if you end up, giving up like 40 points to Devin Leary.
Yeah, for sure. That would be totally inexcusable, but it ain't gonna happen. So
Yeah, don't see it.
all right. Anything else y'all want to touch on? Before I know it's like NVF said. I mean, for us, this is just another game. For Kentucky fans, I'm sure that Matt Jones loser is probably like having a crazy day on his show. But for Tennessee fans, this is just a normal game. I mean, it's not really too exciting or anything. So looking forward to doing the review, though. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I'm really hoping Joe Milton does the same as last. I think if Joe Milton plays the way he did like this past week, that we could be looking at a 325-yard game. I'm speechless, as you could tell. I think if he plays a defense that's a little less of an Alabama and in a different – I mean, what's Alabama, like 30,000, 35,000 plus more seats? So it's a different game. So I think if we get that Joe Milton, everyone's going to be shocked on the stats he gets.
Yeah. It's just like I said earlier, can he build on a good performance?
Exactly.
And like, we all said our running backs are not going to be essentially shut out 2 weeks in a row. I don't see that happening.
Dylan Sampson needs to play more. That's all. I'm going to keep saying it. I don't know why it's just mind-blowing to me on why he doesn't play.
I mean, it's like you said on Sunday. Like, if Dylan Sampson doesn't start getting more touches, he might be looking.
I would be, because he could be a starting running back at a bunch of schools.
Absolutely, he could be a starting running back at a lot of SEC schools. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I can't imagine if he was playing like even say Alabama. Oh my God, he'd be a very highly touted running back if he was playing somewhere like that, somewhere at a big school where he could, get some attention like he does at Tennessee. He just doesn't get the playing time.
Yeah, I mean, it would be wonderful for him to finally get 15 to 20 touches.
Oh, if he does that, I think he might have a 200-yard game.
Yeah. I mean, like, and not some stupid little shovel pass that you're running up the center's ass. Like, something more creative than that.
Yeah, well, like you said, I'm looking forward to the review because I'm really wondering what we're going to get, but I guess we'll save it for that podcast.
Yes, sir. Any parting shots, guys?
No, I don't think so. I think we go handle this game and get on to the next week, focus up on UConn. I know they're UConn, but focus up, win that game, and season's still intact, man. Let's go win a couple games.
Yeah, this game is an excellent chance to build some confidence because you go up there, if you do blow out Kentucky and take care of business, you have a week to rest some of your starters. I mean, not, bench them, but, get them out before halftime and then suit up to go do it on the road again after you've just proven that you can win on the road finally this year. And then if you win that game, you got Georgia coming to town. And who knows if they got lost by then. Because if they do, that game's going to be bananas. So there's still a lot to play for. Seniors need to show out if they want to prove that it wasn't just a flash in the pan last year. So I expect big things from this team come Saturday and then in the final 4 weeks.
Yeah, hopefully we get the win here. Propels us forward. Even more wins. And, like we say, we'll obviously do it, when the time comes. But Brock Bowers probably not going to play in the Tennessee-Georgia game. So you handle business elsewhere, and then you get to play Georgia minus their best player. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, even if he does play, he's not going to be 100%. I mean, so you just got to get there.
We shall see.
You got to get there first.
Yeah.
All right. And that will be a wrap on the Kentucky preview episode. Go Vols.
Go Vols,
baby.